First of all, I appreciate you guys coming out. You know, I was wondering if we was going to get that question over there about what they thought about this. I just want to say, you know, to Jeff, Coach Brohm, I have the most up respect for him. I think he's one of the top 10 coaches in college football. I don't think he gets enough credit. He's one of the best offensive minds in college football. When I was the NFL liaison, a lot of the GMs and player personnel guys, we would talk about Jeff, just his mind and how he goes about calling offenses. So I'm very excited to be here. I swear I'm gonna get the L's thing right. So I've been working on it. So I had an injury right here with my finger playing football, so that's why I wasn't working too much. But I'm really excited to be here. I can't wait to just keep getting to work and work with this staff. They really embraced me. I knew a lot of these guys when I was on the road recruiting, and Jeff has a really high character staff, and I'm excited to be here and work with him.
Questions for Coach?
Where do you kind of begin now? You're in a role that's new here a little bit, and we had recruiting coordinators and all that, but where do you start? How do you start just evaluating what you're seeing and getting into the process of the job?
Well, they actually was doing a good job here. I mean, he really got a quality staff, and you know, me just coming in, I just wanted to just see how things were going. Guys, some of the coaches already asking my opinion on certain things, and I've actually been doing this. It just wasn't like a executive GM role, but I felt like I was doing this for the last 10 years at Kentucky. I was dealing with the NFL, making sure relationships stayed well with our team, recruiting, just all the above. And I think now, if you go back and look at some of the interviews I did the last 2 years, I was saying that it was coming to this point where football was going to go to more like a pro level. You still got the school part, but to have a pro personnel department, a scouting department to help and assist with the coaches. And so, again, I had a lot of opportunities to go a lot of places. The main reason I chose this place was because I was invested in this state. And, you know, Kentucky's really been good to me, the state of Kentucky. And I'm glad and blessed that I get the opportunity to stay here. Before I say anything, I didn't introduce my wife, Renee, and my daughter, Felicia, my son-in-law, Kenny, and a couple of my good friends back there, Belinda and Chris, and I see Mike back there. You guys won't need a mortgage. He's the VP of Stockton Mortgage, so glad you guys came. So, yeah, that's how I see it.
Vince, with the recruiting room, do you have any existing relationships with the guys on that staff right now, and will there be any other changes or how it works?
And we went through some battles with some of them guys that's already on the staff. When I walked in Monday, Barkley and some of them other guys started laughing because, you know, at the time I was up the way, and you know, when I go in recruiting, it don't matter if my mother over there recruiting. I'm gonna try to beat the crap out of you. And so I looked and I said, these guys, we all in recruiting, you're always gonna cross paths with guys. And I know this a rival here, but you know, I had some good relationships with some of Jeff's guys. You know, I love Jeff. I love his dad. I got to see Oscar the other day. Just a really, really good family. And when that other guy was here, it was a little more easier. And now we're going against Jeff. It was like, okay, we really got to pull up our sleeves and go to work. So I'm like I say, I'm just excited to be here. I know this team is at the cusp right there to really kick in the door. And I just think, you know, just me joining part of this, I just want to be a part of it, and you know, let's go win.
So why now? You want to maybe change here with you, or what they were asking you to do here? Like what changed where you're like, okay, now I want to do it?
That man sitting to the left over there, Jeff. I have, like I say again, I have a lot of respect for him. I wouldn't have did it anywhere else. And for the record, I was not kicked out the door at the place up the street. It was just a situation to work with a good friend. I worked for 3 friends. Bo Pelini, a high school friend, knew him over 20-some years. Mark Stoops, over 20-some years, and now another friend right here that I know over 20 years. And I just feel he is the right guy to go work with at this part of my coaching career. I really believe that Jeff really can take this to another level, and I want to be a part of it.
You'll be recruiting for the University of Louisville, but how much are you recruiting against other squads, in particular reform team?
That's a good question, but if you know anything about me, I mean, my wife will tell you, my kids will tell you, I don't care who I'm recruiting against. It can be anybody over there. I want to win, and I want to win that battle. And so it can be Kentucky, it can be Michigan, it can be Miami. I don't care. It's just you better be ready and prepared to deal with us now here at Louisville. You better be prepared because I really believe we're going to take this to another level. And what I love about it, like I said, the continuity of the staff and just the people here. When I came here, I was telling my wife, the first day I walked in, it was like being a kindergarten. I was a little nervous because, I was at the other school and people just put their arms out and they were very accepting. And so I'm fired up. I'm just fired up to work with the staff. I'm fired up to get started. And like I said, you better take this team really serious because I look forward to the battles. I look forward.
When it comes to recruiting, obviously right now, NIL is a big thing, house settlement just hit. How much does that factor in the picture? How does that just affect the way that you recruit and maybe some of the conversations you have just in general with recruits?
Me knowing Jeff, I think we got the same background. Like sometimes you get caught up in a situation where, you got to recruit the right guys. You still want guys that want to be here. And if guys, how can you not want to play for a guy like this? I mean, he's one of, you hear people talk about he's the quarterback whisperer. You hear people say his offense. I really believe kids who are highly skilled would want to come and play for Jeff. And so when you talk about the house settlement, I still think, the revenue share and all that would take care of itself. I believe you still got to raise outside money, and that's a situation where it comes down where Jeff being the head coach and us sitting in there and saying, hey, this is the direction we want to go. But I still believe you got to have players that want to be here, not just to come and get a paycheck. We can make you grow into a person. If you want to play at the next level, his track record speaks for him. So I said this and I got a lot of flack for it, but to me, he's really easy to recruit for. When I want to go get a top offensive skilled player, he's a great guy that I can say, hey, you want to go play for this guy. And then the other thing is I sat in meeting rooms with the running back coach. Never been around, knew him, but I never heard him teach. I sat in there with Coach Owens, and I was blown away. And if you know anything about me, I don't sugarcoat nothing. If I would have came and told Jeff, man, these guys need to work on some of this, the way they teach. But I was blown away, and I put myself as a player when they're teaching. And Barkley and Owens, man, they really two good teachers. And so it just made me, when I go recruit, I believe in what I'm recruiting, what I'm selling. I'm not going to sell nothing that I don't believe in.
Vince, at your previous stop, you also served as the tight end coach, but here you're going to be exclusively in an off-field role. How much does that help you personally in your recruiting efforts and building relationships with people, knowing that you don't have to worry about the coaching aspect, you just worry about the recruiting aspect?
Yes. I think, like I said, there was another school that talked to me about, and I'm not going to say it was, who approached me, and it just put the idea that, you know what, the way this thing is going, you have to spend more time evaluating, and mainly more in the transfer portal. You can take guys that really don't fit your culture because you really ain't did the homework. You look at the NFL, they bring in guys, they come in. When I was the NFL liaison guy, they would come in fall camp, then they'd come back. They'd come back 3 times just getting information. I really believe this is where college football is going, and you don't have enough time to really find out what's the background of these guys. And I just said, you know what? I'm really good at what I do with this, and so a lot of people say, but I love what I do. I would do it for free because I love building relationships. I love talking to kids. I love, bringing kids out of certain situations and put them in a university and say, hey, you can change your life this way or betterment for that way. And so I really believe the time now that I ain't got to spend in coaching, I can just spend a lot of time evaluating guys and getting that background stuff. It makes us better. It makes the whole team better.
Anything else for Vince?
Just kind of following up on that, was it hard to give up that on-field role, being that that's your background, and if so, why now is the time to kind of go into more of an administrative kind of role?
because I believe this is where college football is going, and I think it's going to keep going this way. And yeah, was it hard to give up? I'm a coach at hand, and I don't know if you guys know Ozzie Newsome. I remember when Ozzie Newsome came to work me out at Toledo, him and Coach Saban and Coach Belichick, where they was, I was one of the guys they were going to draft, and I became good friends with Ozzie, and I watched Ozzie over the years, and I was surprised that Ozzie got out of coaching because he was a big time tight end, and he went into the front office. And if you look at the Ravens, their last 10, 12 drafts, they've been very effective, and Ozzie footprint was all over that. And you see all these other guys that came under his tree, they are winning in other places. So I thought about Ozzie, and I was like, you know what? I'm coming to work for a good friend. I'm really excited to see where we're going to go with this, because I really do believe this guy's a really good coach, and I knew that even when he was at Purdue. I used to watch what he do to Ohio State, and a state that I'm from, and he has some average talent, and he going there beating the NFL roster. So you give this guy some players, I really, really believe that you're going to be not surprised. I won't be surprised, but you guys will be excited to see where it's going.
Philosophy on recruiting, obviously recruiting in-state is important, but you want to reach out to the region and even further. Just your thoughts on how important the state of Kentucky is, but also reaching further out.
So when John Slarman passed, our O-line coach, who was a great man, he was recruiting Louisville, and I was recruiting Ohio, Michigan, and PA. And as John started getting, he started getting sick, and Louisville and the state of Kentucky football started getting, really the coaches started getting better. They started having more prospects. John came to me and he said, man, we need to put you in the state of Kentucky because, it's really, really starting to produce some talent. My philosophy was when I became recruiting coordinator at Kentucky, I did some research, and before I became recruiting coordinator, the highest they ever were ranked on all these these recruiting services was like 59, 61. And that next year, we had a short time to recruit, but we was 26. And I was sitting in a press conference like this, a recruiting press conference, and I said, wait till next year. And they looked at me like I was, they was excited about having a class ranked in 27 outside the top 25. That next year class, we were like number 11 or 12. And I got this from Bob Stoops. When he came to visit us, we was at Malone's up in Lexington, and he said, we sitting there, and there's a couple of us, and he said, you guys would be crazy not to mind Ohio. He said, if I had Ohio that close to me at Oklahoma, he said, I would spend a lot of time there because it's the fourth producer state of D1 athletes and the fifth producer state that produces NFL athletes. And so my philosophy was, let's get a 6-hour radius. If guys got a relationship 10 or 12 hours further, like a strong relationship, like this kid, we recruit that. But let's build a fence around the state of Kentucky. Let's take every kid that's available to play at that time in the SEC. So now in the ACC, let's make sure we lock down that, put a gate around that. Then let's go to Ohio, Tennessee, Michigan. We recruited a lot of guys that's in the NFL out of Michigan. That if you looked at the draft, Detroit alone had, I think, 6-7 guys drafted in the first two or three rounds. And so I believe that you got to mind your backyard. You got to lock that down. We cannot let the good talent get out of the state of Kentucky. Then you go to Ohio, where I believe, and I'm telling you this, when Jeff was at Purdue, I would be in Ohio recruiting, and I remember the time when they beat Ohio State, and I was talking to Ted Ginn, who's a well-known guy up in Cleveland, and you got to know Ted's voice. He said, man, that boy, he can coach with less talent. He said, you ever thought if you were there working with him at Purdue, that where they would go? And so now it's came full circle. I'm here with Jeff, and I believe if we can just lock down the state, go to battle in Ohio, go to Tennessee. I know they got a great relationship down in South Florida. And so if you got things like that, you have to keep them relationships. People may think it's still about money, but it's still about relationships. You got to have great relationships. And I feel that I have a lot of great relationships over the year that I built with certain people. So in a nutshell, just 6-hour radius, I believe.
Last one I met.
Vince, you just talked about Ohio, but what's your recruiting mindset with some of the more traditional blue chip recruiting pipelines like Texas, California, and Florida, the latter of which being traditionally one that Louisville has utilized heavily in the past?
What's your name, my man? What's your name again?
Matt McCammon.
Matt McCammon. So you don't think Ohio's a state that produce top? Yes. Yeah. So it has changed. And what I'm saying is, when you go outside, if you ain't got a relationship in Texas, Florida, now we got relationships in Florida, but all the other states you said, I got relationships in PA. Now you selling who the man is. You selling his offense. I'm just speaking of offense. You selling him because last time I checked, if you ask any high school kid, they all want to go to the NFL. Now they all ain't gonna make it, but they all want to go to the NFL. Who can produce guys? Who can develop guys? That's what you got to look at. It's no different if you're a baseball player and you want to say, hey, what's the best pitching coach? What's the best hitting coach? Well, Jeff is the best, and Brian are the best quarterback coaches. And I would say that if I was still up the street, they are the best quarterback developers I ever seen and ever been around. And so if you want to sell an offense or even sell a defense, that's the part that come in where you don't have relationships, but now you're just selling the product. And it's not going to be hard to do that, trust me. Just go look back over to some of the years when I was at Kentucky where, and no offense, do not take this the wrong way, but where we struggled offensively and we still were signing 4-star guys, impact guys. The one guy y'all probably remember was Lynn Bolton, who we took him. We went throwing the ball once. We put him at quarterback, and he almost won the Heisman. He won the Paul Horney Award, but that's the type of kids that we recruit to. Now, if I was recruiting for this offense, I'm going to go in a couple high schools and a couple states and just really be smiling because I know it's going to be a good sale. That's all I'm saying. It's just facts. Just facts.
All right, thanks, Coach.
Thank you, guys.